Happy Hump Day, everybody. Ronnie Rance, Tommy Christ, and TK joining us over in God's country, Port Allen, Louisiana, right across Old Bridge, New Bridge, across from downtown Baton Rouge, 5 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge. He's at the Court Street Cafe. All right, TK, the whole world is freaking out over the Hall of Fame announcement that Bill Belichick is not going to get in on the first ballot. 50 voters, I got only 39 votes, needed 40. Um, Absolutely shocked. There should be an overhaul of the system when something like this happens. You're talking about some nerdy, little small people that don't like the fact, press type people that don't like the fact that he was terrible at press conferences. They're blaming Deflate Gate, which was obviously one of the 49 years that he's been a coach, where he got fined $500,000 and Deflategate, and then also the another, spying on
Spygate.
Spygate, spying on other teams. Um, but here's the thing, Tommy, about Bill Belichick. He literally is the greatest coach of all time. It's not even close. Vince Lombardi would say he's the greatest coach of all time. He holds the record for everything other than wins. He's second all time in wins behind Don Shula by less than 10 games. But he's got this is his record in the postseason, Tommy, 31 and 13. He's 31 and 13. He has 11 more postseason wins than second place, which is Don Shula. He's coached a team in 9 Super Bowls. He's won 6. He's won 8 if you count being an assistant coach. Like, there's not a category. He's got more win. He's had 7, 13 or more win seasons. That's the most all time. He's had 12 win or more seasons. That's the most of all time. On and on and on. You look up the record books and coaching in the NFL, and his name is there. He's either first or second. He's basically first in about 90% of every category. The fact that this guy's not in the Hall of Fame, they should not even have a class this year.
I agree 100%. There's lots of people in lots of Hall of Fames who have stuff in the closet. Okay, and here's the thing, right? If the NFL was going to rename the Lombardi Trophy, it'd be the Belichick Trophy. Okay, so here's my point. All 32 NFL teams, their goal is to win the Super Bowl. Now, some of them strive harder than others. We know that story. Everybody wants to win a Super Bowl, okay, or get to a Super Bowl. He's done it more than everybody, especially if you count his time as an assistant with the Giants when he got 2 rings as an assistant coach. So, I mean, it's just mind boggling. The system has to be scrapped today, develop a new system for how he could get in or how people are elected to the Hall of Fame. There's controversy with all Hall of Fames, the local Hall of Fames, Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Everybody has stories. You're like, what? That doesn't add up. That doesn't sound good. But to Bill Belichick not to be in the NFL Hall of Fame. Okay, you want to talk Spygate? Deflategate was really Brady, not as much
Right.
Belichick. You want to talk Spygate? You want to talk him being an ass at press conferences? Just being Bill Belichick. He never changed. It wasn't like he was an ass one year. He was like that every year, every press conference. So you just have somewhere sooner or later you got to say the Hall of Fame. They all say all Hall of Fame say what you did off the field doesn't really matter. Okay,
Well, that's
Spygate was
not
on
true.
the field. Okay, but it does matter because it's human beings saying I don't like him because he was mean to the media. Next question, whatever it all was. But by the way, Dan Patrick does an excellent imitation of Belichick at press conferences. I mean, if you close your eyes, you'd think it was Belichick. He's got that one nailed. And I listened to a lot of that driving over here to Court Street Cafe this morning. That's all that they were talking about. But if he's not in the Hall of Fame, who is? I'll leave it at that.
It it really I would love for them, Tommy, to have some sort of investigation into this, and I would love for someone to rat out the 11 names of who didn't vote. There's 50 voters, the 11 people who didn't vote for them. They should have to walk down the street and everybody go shame, shame, shame. It's just that you don't deserve a vote. I mean, it's absolute. There's not another person outside of that room, those 11 people that think he doesn't deserve to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Not there's people that don't know anything about sports. No, Bill Belichick deserves to be a first ballot. Read the resume. It is unprecedented. And it blows my mind. and look, as a guy who's been in a room, for Hall of Fames, obviously since 2016 when I got the job, so I've been in a room since 2017 for every Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and a selection since then. And I understand, and it's heated debates. I mean, there's over 150 people that were nominated. That list gets over 20 different sports and categories, and it gets weaned down to about a 50, 60 person list, and that's the list that's sort of really gone over drastically in person for hours. There is a human nature component. There are people that will stand there and go, he's an ass, or he was a jerk, or he's this. And my point to that is, unless they did something criminal, that's the only way that there should be a conversation. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about that. If you are, if you are deserving of being in the Hall of Fame, outside of OJ Simpson type scenario, had he done what he did prior to getting in, type of thing, it shouldn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a nice guy or whatever. There's a lot of jerks that are in the Hall of Fame, and they're holding Bill Belichick's personality and hanging on to this deflate gate. They're going to slap his hand and put him in year two, and it's a disgrace.
Well, part of me when I first heard about this said, Belichick ought to really just say, if they vote him in next year, I don't want it. Okay, it wouldn't change his legacy. I don't know that he would do that or not, but
Nah, it's
that
not.
was a thought that I had. Okay, I'm not saying it's the right thought, but it was something that crossed my mind. Like, but I mean, they got to revamp the system. And again, Ronnie, there's a long list of people in sports, players, coaches, front office people, what all sports, who cheated or pushed that envelope or did something right next to the rule or even broke a rule. Okay, it's a long list of those. I don't have time to tell you the whole list. Sports fans can be spend hours coming up with people that did stuff wrong for decades, not just recently. Okay, it's always been a thing. Everybody, people are competitors. They'll do anything to get an edge. They'll push the envelope and they'll cheat. They'll bend the rules sometimes. Look at all the Olympic athletes that took steroids to win. I mean, it's an endless list, really is. But Bill Belichick should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, in my opinion. I don't vote, obviously, but it's just mind-boggling. It kind of is like a punch to the gut to the Hall of Fame. Like you really let this happen. And Dan
Yeah.
Patrick talked about transparency. They ought to those people should do interviews. Dan Patrick talked about when he was voting for the NBA MVP. One year he didn't vote for Karl Malone. He went on TV in Salt Lake City to say why he voted for Jordan because he thought Jordan was the best player. One year he didn't vote for Barkley. Phoenix TV newspaper contacted him, said, "How can you not vote for Barkley? I thought Jordan was the best." It was transparent. Whether you agree with him or not, he stated his opinion. I'm like you. These 11 people need to speak up for why, okay? And then take their vote away. I mean, we have a lot of people that vote on a lot of things that shouldn't have a vote in the world of sports, but it happens.
This shouldn't have even been a vote. This should have just been a yeah, we're putting them in, right? Everybody good? Everybody good? Like, what I mean? Like, it's silly. And I hope, and I look, because you, it's to me, this is comparable to the AP voters that do goofy things, right? That we've seen, like AP voters go on and laugh and admit that they turned in a ballot that was just silly. I mean, they would have UL Lafayette ranked number one, whatever in the poll in football or something. We've seen those people do those things, and in my opinion, this is right up there. This is silly. This is irresponsible. You're not taking your job serious enough. You don't deserve to have the right to be one of the 50 Pro Football Hall of Fame voters. It's an honor, not a right or a privilege. I mean, it is a privilege, but clearly you're not. You're letting your personal bias get in the way of making a smart decision, and there should be consequences for that. There should be. And so look, I think this is such a giant topic, and people are so taken aback, Tommy, that I do expect that we're going to hear some names leaked. I don't think there's any
It's
way
going to happen.
possible between now and next year that it doesn't come out at least some of the names of the of the voters who voted against him. And I would hope that of the 11, there's a few that have the kahunas to say, "Hey, man, I had a vote. I didn't vote. Here's why." You know,
Yeah,
uh,
I agree with you know, Ronnie. There was about a 5 or 6 year window a few years back when I was on the list to possibly be a Heisman Trophy voter. Okay, and I had to do an interview as to how I would treat that. And of course, I gave the interview, and it didn't happen, obviously. And there's about 750 people that vote on the Heisman. I was not selected, and it's not going to happen now. Back when I was doing 2 TV shows a week and radio 5 days a week, and I was a regular on the Cow and Cowherd radio show for years. I had a chance, okay, and that window is closed. But I had to do an interview just to get on the maybe list, okay, and I did it, and I was on the list for a few years, and again, that's went away. But there are so many people that they inject themselves into the story, okay. Whether you hate Bill Belichick or not, you have to vote him in the Hall of Fame if you have one of those 50 votes, in my
there's so
opinion.
many stats that are incredible about Bill Belichick. This may be my favorite one, Tommy. Not the 17 division titles, which is incredible. He is 165 games above 500. He has 300 and how many wins does he have? He's got 33 wins or so. Let me see, 333 wins. He's second all time in wins behind Shula's 347. But he's 165 games above 500 as a coach. He could lose 165 games in a row and still finish 500 as a coach, Tommy. Like that stat is unbelievable. There's only three coaches all time that have 100 wins or more and have finished above 500 as a coach. Him, Shula, and George Hallis. You know what I mean? Like, go on and on and on. You go on and on and on, and it's absurd. So anyway, we move on so from one absurd thing to the other. Duke's losing its quarterback to Miami. It's official. Mensa is gonna who went started off his career at Tulane, went to Duke, signed a 2 year, $8 million deal at Duke. Was got 4 million last year. Supposed to get another 4 million this year at the literally the 11 and a half hour right before the deadline on the final day that you could declare for the portal. He went into the portal after a month ago prior. He had said he's not leaving Duke after he led him to an ACC championship game win. And instead, he goes in the portal. They file an injunction because they had a contract with him. They do an out of court settlement. Nobody's talking about it. There are reports, leaks that Miami is going to cover the $4 million that they paid Mensa, to get him out of his contract. They're going to pay Duke $4 million, and they're going to give him like 6 or 8 million to go over there. And they signed his number one receiver at Duke, so he left as well. So they got that resolved. Last night he was at the beach in Miami. Him and his number one receiver having steak dinner with some of the Miami players. It's the Wild Wild West. They add this to the list of the things that Clemson's complaining about, etc. Oh, by the way, the NCAA has admitted that they are looking into investigating, looking into whatever the allegations of tampering that Clemson had against Ole Miss. So we'll see if something happens. I do believe they'll slap their hand with some sort of 1 or 2 game suspension of the coach and a fine or something. That's about it. But it's
Right.
crazy.
Let me ask you this question. Let's both try to peer 2, 3 years down the road. What's college football going to be? I think it's going to be it's off the rails now. Okay, it's no longer running on the track. It's off the rails on the bumpy side road. Okay, I mean, I just think everything we've heard, everything we've talked about on Sports Shows Daily and Sports Shows Radio. Sooner or later, there's a tipping point. Sooner or later, people are going to say, "To hell with college football." Almost, I don't know, this might be a bad example, almost like championship wrestling or the WWE, which we all know is choreographed and scripted. And you got fans that love it. I mean, people pay per view, people show up in arenas, whatever. I just don't know, and I'm not smart enough to answer, but I don't think the college football is on a good path right now. And I'm talking 2, 3 years from now.
Tommy, I don't. I'm not one that believes that doom is near for college football because at the end of the day, people want entertainment. They want to be entertained. They want a sense of community. It does all that for them. If think of all the people that just look forward to those 7 LSU football home games, right, for the tailgates and all that. um okay, if you don't do that, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? Like you've created a life where you look forward to those things. You grew up that doing those things. You're now a grown up with a family. You want to do those things with them. So what are you going to not do those things just because athletic department's kind of going broke or players are getting paid? No, there's a sense of stink and ooginess to it, but I don't think it's going to go away because there's not something that's going to replace that entertainment, that time, that care. How about this, Tommy? There is, and coming up in May or June, I forget. I think it's May in Vegas. They're having sort of a mini Olympics for people that use steroids. So you're going to be able to swim and do the 100-meter dash and what power weightlifting and all these things, and you can be on performance enhancing drugs. Now you don't have to take them; that's not mandatory, but you're going to you check the box, and if you check the box that you are taking performance enhancing drugs, there's a procedure to it. You have to protocols and guidelines and things you have to follow. But like we're literally going to have a made for TV event with fans and da 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 of people that are knowingly juiced up and every other tranquilizer and horse pill and everything under the sun and going to be lifting weights and swimming and all that. I mean, that's where society is headed. So, Tommy, I can't figure it out, Coach. I can't figure it out.
Well, you said the key word, entertainment. How do people want to be entertained? What will they spend their money on? What will they spend their time on? I'm just wondering if that, already, go to a Rougarou game. That's what you do. That's going to be the new entertainment. The Rougarou, the Gumbo Gators, the Texas Collegiate League. That's the new entertainment value because there's
In the
great
summer.
value there. There's incredible value there. We'll be talking about that a lot as we go forward, but. No, it's just I don't know, man. It's just kind of mind-boggling. It might be because I'm old, and I remember when it was so different. But everything changes in the world, not just sports. The whole world changes. So society, everything. So we'll just see. But it's just nothing surprises you anymore. You remember when years ago you were surprised that some coach got fired, or you were surprised that some player got traded or transferred or the kid signed with a college you didn't think he was going to sign with. Nothing surprises folks anymore.
um, Couple of things. Little bit of a surprise. Joe Brady, the former LSU co-offensive coordinator, who got a lot of credit for Joe Burrow's season in 2019 in Baton Rouge, and there's been a lot of people. He was only here 1 year after being an assistant with the Saints, and there was a lot of people that were wondering: is Joe Brady going to come back as a coordinator? Is he going to come back as a head coach when different things changed? He didn't. He stayed in the NFL, and now it paid off. He's the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. He's got a franchise quarterback. I think obviously that franchise quarterback had a big say and Brady being the head coach. And then Mike McCarthy, who took a year off to enjoy the family and do a little TV and chill and spend his millions and travel around. He's now back coaching the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is a pretty good indicator that Aaron Rodgers is going to return for another year. He was not, Aaron Rodgers had not shut the door on coming back. He said he was going to take some time away. Didn't want to make any emotional or rash decisions. It's widely reported that many of the Steeler players in their exit meetings to the front office said, they'd love to have Aaron Rodgers back, and so I think this now secures that.
Yeah, well, a lot of NFL news this week, of course, Super Bowl coming up. But Ronnie, two things that no, the two things that are changing in Buffalo, the only two things, is a new head coach, and they're about to have a new stadium. Okay, the front office stayed the same. Joe Brady, who called the plays and ran the offense, he's elevated the head coach, and so that's what's happening in Buffalo. I think McCarthy's a good coach. I think he's got it. I heard his press conference. I mean, he's from Pittsburgh. He got very emotional with the Rooney family and the colors of the Steelers. I listened to it. It was pretty genuine, to be honest with you. And I've always thought he was a pretty good coach. And when he did great things in Dallas, but Jerry Jones wanted the spotlight, wouldn't let McCarthy have it. Go imagine that. So, well, NFL stories will keep rolling because, by the way, the Super Bowl's a week and a half away.
Looking forward to it, man. I'll be watching the Super Bowl in Lake Charles. We got a little sales training going on that day with all our staff in Baton Rouge and Lake Charles during the day, and so I'll be over there pulling for the Seahawks, man. I put a little small wager on the Seahawks, maybe I don't know, month and a half, 2 months ago, something like that, on them winning the Super Bowl. So I'll get a little steak dinner if the Seahawks end up winning. So that's clear where I'm pulling for. But beyond that, like I don't change my opinion. You know, I would, I made that, I made that decision months ago or a month or two ago. But if I would have bet again on who I think is going to win the Super Bowl between these two teams, I would take Seattle. The
Yeah.
question is, do they cover the 4.5? But if it was money line, I would take Seattle.
Well, and I haven't made a bet on the game yet. And I'm like everybody else looking at stuff and reading stuff. But if I had to make a bet this morning here on Sports Shorts Daily, I'd bet the Seahawks minus 4.5. Now, I reserve the right to change that before kickoff, but that's my thought today.
By the way, some news out of Denver. Sean Payton got rid of his boy, Lombardi, Joe Lombardi, who is a 15-year assistant coach for Sean Payton, parts of two stints in New Orleans, and then been with him ever since he's been in Denver. Fired him as offensive coordinator. Just completed his third season in Denver with Sean Payton, and they let him go. That had to be a hard thing for him to do because, like I said, they're friends. They've got 15 years of history together. um, but when your offense is struggling, and Bo Nix, even though they won, I feel like Bo Nix didn't progress. He made a lot of mistakes. And look, that's what Bo Nix does, man. He's a gunslinger. He's kind of like a poor man's Brett Favre, in that you got to take the good with the bad. That's how he was in college. He threw some picks, he had some turnovers, but he also had some great plays, and he's a tough guy. He was a lot like that this year. Was very up and down. He didn't kind of progress and make that year two step like you'd hope for. He was a very much like year one. And the offense obviously didn't play well in the AFC Championship game without him, when they only gained, I think, 37 yards passing in the second half or something. But the thing is that uh, they have a unique dynamic.
Ronnie will jump back with us in a second. And I agree with Bo Nix. I agree with this stuff with Bo Nix. And it reminds me, Ronnie, of one of Bill Parcells' famous quotes says, if my quarterback isn't throwing interceptions, he isn't trying hard enough. He's not trying to make a play. So, yeah, some people can buy into that. But, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Denver had a great season. And, you'll never know what would happen if Knicks would have played in the conference championship game. We'll never know the answer to that. You can speculate all you want, but it's not going to happen. So we'll see how that thing. You're right, to get rid of Joe Lombardi, who had been with him forever. Who like a this? He's in the Lombardi family. He's related to Vince Lombardi, who the Super Bowl trophy's named after. So we'll see how that unfolds further.
All right, TK, tell us about Court Street Cafe.
Well, breakfast, lunch, dinner, 7 days a week. Saturday night, steak night. The Sunday brunch is through the roof. Good. Jason and the staff do a super job here. Just a couple of minutes over the Mississippi River Bridge. Court Street Cafe. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram. They do a great job of posting lunch specials, dinner specials, drink specials, full service bar right behind me. Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. We want you to check them out. All right. We got that'll do it for today. We will be back Friday, back to 9 o'clock with another episode of Sports Shorts Daily. I'll be over at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Like and share this show, no matter where you're watching, Facebook, X, or YouTube. Like and share this show. We appreciate that. That helps us. It helps our sponsors, helps our partners the whole bit. So, on behalf of Ronnie Rance and Jason here at Court Street Cafe, I'm Tommy Christ. Have a great Wednesday, everyone.